We are going to enter the mini Schnauzer 2, knocking out another underdog draft. Are you excited?
I am excited. Yeah. And where would you? I think we did one of these a couple weeks ago. So it was my first one,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I want to do some more of these. So let's get into it.
I know you're well versed. Being on the outside, in the wrong state, you've watched enough, you've seen enough to know exactly what you're doing, but to actually get in the drafts and build some teams, it's a different beast. It's a lot of fun. So
Oh yeah, and in fact, I meant to tell you, but I think Michigan is now legal. I think it's legal
oh
for us
wow,
to do Underdog now. I saw a map and Michigan was included, so I might have
oh
to double check that. But I think we're good. So I
okay,
might
yeah,
be able to do it on
no
my own now.
no legal issues when we knock down this
Yeah, I
draft.
think we're good now. I
We'll
think
knock out
we're
this
in the
tournament.
clear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That's funny. I think I recognize this guy Knuckle. The funny thing is when you start doing drafts, you start recognizing these names, and there's literally thousands upon thousands of people drafting, but
Mhm.
somehow, I always end up in the same drafts with the same people. Last year, a lot of people that are well known in this space. It's always fun getting and draft with them. But yeah, so Knuckle, don't know who that is, but recognize him already. So we get the eighth spot, Dan.
Okay.
This rank is annoying because I was going through it and then I completely messed it up. So I wish I could just clear that out. I'm gonna sort by ADP. Actually, I think this is probably one of my least favorite spots as far as first round picking because you're kind of forced into a running back in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, obviously you can always go receiver. It's just that you have to go on Puka or kind of like AJ Brown.
Mhm.
What do you think here? Knock out a Bijan or a Brees or a Puka?
I mean, it seems like going wide receiver is the safer thing to do in these drafts. But I mean, if you have a feeling and you want to go with one of these running backs, I mean, I'm open to it.
It's safer, but you can just keep. Not, I mean, as long as you're actually knocking them out the first rounds, it's completely fine to go running back.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, I just think Brees Hall straight up dominates these receivers.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay. Let's
just
do it then.
I'm really high on Brees Hall, and we got the running back haters title, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll
Okay.
be
Yeah.
we'll be like our hero RB lovers is like what we could
Yeah, we might have to
adjust to
change the
be
title of
now.
the live stream. We're going to be running back lovers by the end of this.
Yeah,
So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I love Brees Hall this year. I think he's
yeah.
in for a massive season. So yeah, tough for me to argue against that. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do like a hero running back build. Maybe we'll kind of fade running back after this and just kind of build around Brees.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
One thing I will say too is that when you actually do kind of get forced to take in one of these elite running backs, that's where you can build true super teams because you can still smash out all the receivers. Maybe you hit on a rookie, and then if you like completely fade into those double digit rounds, the ambiguous backfields, I mean, there's a
Mhm.
real opportunity to just be absolutely smashing every week. So I don't actually mind grabbing a running back like Brees Hall round one, who I think can be the RB1. I mean,
Oh
just
yeah, he definitely could be.
just as much as Bijan, and obviously CMC is just not even from this earth. But
Mhm.
we'll see when his what year he decides to come down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like Derrick Henry. This guy is also an alien. He's been slowing down a little bit, but it's just
yeah.
so funny. Like these guys, it's almost like you just can't fade them early because they'll just keep showing you up every year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you've been like betting against Derrick Henry over like the last several years, that hasn't like worked out too well. So yeah, same thing with like Travis Kelsey. If you've been saying like, oh yeah, this is the year he's gonna like fall off. So yeah, some of these guys are just better off like not betting against and just waiting until it happens and just being a year late.
Yeah, it's much easier to bet against them in Dynasty than it is like
Oh yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
in your actual like underdog and redraft leagues. But I mean, look, we actually have Marvin Harrison still on his board. Um, I guess we should plan ahead our next pick here. Who's behind Marvin? Who's your favorite receiver?
And I definitely like both Olave and Ayuk. I think those are both solid picks right there.
The thing I'll immediately say between these two, I mean, Olave is higher slightly in ADP. I just prefer Olave personally.
Okay.
Less target competition. I think there's a real chance that I'll just go ahead and pick him here so we can
Yeah,
continue.
go ahead.
I like when you actually watch the games, I mean, he was getting smacked in the face with the ball. Like him and like Derek Carr were just not on the same page. And he was never bad, but he was terrible for basketball. Just in the fact that he never really had a true spike week. But I don't know. All his metrics are fine. His first 2 years, I mean, you actually look at CeeDee Lamb. He played with Dak Prescott his first 2 seasons. Of course, Dak is better than Derek Carr.
Yeah.
But I mean, Chris Olave is like identical in every form of metric and finishing. Maybe he's not going to be CeeDee Lamb, but if he can give his best impression,
Yeah.
I think there's a real real shot for him to have a ceiling. Whereas I feel like Ayuk's kind of reached. We've kind of seen who he is, and being like a high end wide receiver too. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, with Ayuk, I feel like if he went to an offense where they pass the ball more, I think we could see a higher ceiling in terms of like the final stats. But yeah, maybe we've seen the ceiling in terms of like just his talent being displayed on the field and like reaching his potential in that sense. But with Olave, yeah, I think he could definitely take another step forward in his third year. Maybe some people already kind of feel like, we've already kind of know what Olave is, but I mean, look at what like CeeDee Lamb did last year. I mean, he really ascended. Whether you're talking in like a redraft sense or dynasty, he really took that leap in his game. So, and what year was that for Lamb last year? Was that his fourth year?
Fourth year, but his third year like was his like true breakout year. Yeah,
Okay.
that was his fourth season.
Okay, but yeah, so yeah, he kind of broke out in his third year, but then last year in his fourth year, even took like another step forward and was, I mean, did he finished as the wide receiver one, didn't he, or was it Tyreek?
He ended up finishing as wide receiver one. Not only that, like it was I think like the highest like points per game by a receiver or something, and like at like fantasy era. I don't know. It was actually kind of insane what he did.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it's not a surprise, but I think
Yeah.
to see just how good he was a little bit of a shock.
Yeah. So my point is, you never know when a wide receiver, like in his third, fourth year, is going to like take that leap.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I think it's a good bet. Playing for upside Olave over Ayuk. I also just kind of prefer Debo in this format over Ayuk. So.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. So if you want to go with like 149er receiver, I guess.
Yeah, we're on the clock. Honestly, I was just thinking about this earlier. I don't know. Like, are you out on Cooper Kupp? I'm kind of like in at this price. Like wide receiver 23. You just gotta think he outproduces that, right? Like, I like that game a lot too.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Is there anyone else here that you would like? I mean, we kind of just need to take a receiver. We're basically forced to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like I like Flowers and Dell. I mean, I don't mind Michael Pittman either. So yeah, none of those like wide receivers at the top of ADP there. None of them like I mind, but yeah, in terms of like one sticking out over the other, I mean, I guess like with Cup, it wasn't long ago that he was just putting up those like insane numbers before he kind of crashed back to earth a little bit last year. But some of that was definitely injury. I mean, he was still pretty good though when he was out there. He just kind of got overshadowed by the unexpected emergence of Puka to a degree. But I definitely like owning Rams receivers. And yeah, I mean, Cup could be kind of sneaky this year in redraft.
Yeah, when you're actually like looking, man, like he's just going a couple spots ahead, like T. Higgins, George Pickens, Mark Cooper. I don't know. I think that's kind of almost a tier breakoff for me. Even like, obviously Flowers, like second year receivers are great bets, but to just have a guy that can, I mean, Cooper Kupp could be a top 5 receiver, and no one will blink an eye. And if we're getting him at low end wide receiver 2 price,
yeah,
I think I need to focus on trying to get some more of him. And I like that Arizona LA Week 17 game a lot.
Yeah,
it puts us in a spot. Maybe like Kyler could be our first quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
With that
Yeah,
being
and I think
said, oh, sorry.
also with Cooper Cup, it's easy like with how much Dynasty you and I play.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of like fade Cup and Dynasty just because like he's really up there in age, and again like he didn't have the greatest season last year, and so he's kind of an easy guy to just sort of like write off a little bit in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Whether that's
By
right
the
or
way,
wrong, it's easy to
we're up
do.
here.
Oh, okay.
I like if we want to play out that game, we can go McBride. I don't know if there's like we basically otherwise would need to take a receiver. Is there a guy here you like? I mean, Terry McLaurin's been getting some hype, but he's way ahead of ADP. It's basically just Christian Kirk at ADP.
Okay.
We can still smash receivers out after this. I don't know. Like, are you okay with McBride? Do we?
I'd I'd be good with McBride.
Okay. Yeah, we ran out of time, but I mean that's the time where I'm fine taking McBride. Is like I think we're set up pretty good to take Kyler Murray here.
Okay.
Let me just check his ADP real quick here, or face cam. I gotta put this on the other side here.
Yeah, my only point about Cup though is that like we kind of have to remind ourselves as we're like as we shift from Dynasty and jump into an underdog draft, like hey, like Cooper Cup could be a dominant receiver in terms of like redraft or best ball. So yeah, like he's one of those guys you gotta have to like kind of remind yourself that like he could be a lead in this format.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm just you gotta bring yourself back to earth when we're fading these guys in Dynasty. These vets, like, I mean, they certainly can be difference makers.
Yeah, and it's also a good reminder for Dynasty, and like part of
Yeah.
the reason we're doing it is because it kind of like it forces you to like look at redraft and think about like, oh, you know what, like maybe I'll buy Cooper Cup on one of my contending Dynasty teams. So I think it's like good to do these drafts if you're playing Dynasty.
Yeah, it is just to see where the market is on these players, and of course, all the receivers are going to push it up. But to see that, like, I mean, Cup. I mean, I guess it's a little bit against the point where it's like, okay, I mean, Cup's only a wide receiver 2, low end, wide receiver 2 in underdog, but that just feels wrong. And in Dynasty, he's not that expensive. I sent a trade I was telling you about. Honestly, can't believe it was accepted. Sent Addison and just straight up for Saquon before he went to the Eagles, and Cooper Cup, just coming off a bad season, and
Yeah.
It just got accepted. So like a move like that, I already had plenty of youth. Just kind of like buying vets. I don't know, maybe when they seem at their cheapest.
Yeah.
Some disappointing seasons, whatever. So
yeah. I mean, I could see how the other manager would accept that. It's like if they're a rebuilder and they're just like looking to get off these aging assets, and it's like, ooh, Jordan Addison, that'll work. Except
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Kirk Cousins was still projected to be the starter, so a lot has changed, and that's why I don't mind taking gambles like that in Dynasty early. I mean, underdog, you can do kind of the same thing and draft like the big board teams, or draft your best ball mania teams early, like right now, and try to get an edge. But there's certainly some risk to that. So we are 5 picks away.
Another thing I wanted to mention about Olave that I was thinking about is that it doesn't set up well. It doesn't set up great for a stack because like, Derek Carr isn't like all that exciting. But I don't know. I mean, have you drafted any Derek Carr and dog, like at least when you take Olave? Or I mean, how much do you weigh that like, oh geez, like if we draft Olave, then we gotta consider Derek Carr later. So does that kind of act as a deterrent?
Honestly, no. I mean, because Juwan Johnson fits into the late round tight end. And like Derek Carr is free. Like just I actually really like the late round quarterbacks. In fact, I would just I mean the numbers show, but let's just focus on our pick here real quick. I'm just not a read guy myself in here. I know it's best ball. I like the Wicks like 100 picks later or whatever it is, 70 picks later.
I mean, I definitely like Reed. I feel like he would suit best ball pretty well if you're worried about like all the different Packers wide receivers. And I think
he might be the best guy on the board, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I like either.
I guess so.
Yeah, I also like Pacheco, but I don't know if we want to go running back, so maybe Reed makes the most sense.
4-team build, let's just go Reed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of forced into it. It seems like this draft's actually been ahead of ADP on receivers still somehow.
Okay.
If that's like even possible without early going. But what I'll say is like I know I'm the biggest Calvin Ridley hater, but I'd almost consider in a format like this potentially, I could see, Ridley getting him
Mhm.
behind Jaden Reed, just because Will Levis is so cheap,
Mhm.
Hopkins is so cheap, Spears, like that entire offense.
Yeah.
Whereas Jordan Love, he's not a rusher, and you have to draft him high. And I just like Wicks is just right there, so cheap. So
Mhm.
kind of in that dead zone. I'm not a big fan of Reed, but I mean, hey, maybe he's just the next superstar. I don't think he needs to be stackable. He gets carries and weird plays going to him. Sorry, you don't need Love with him at
Yeah.
least.
I
So
mean, yeah, the interesting thing about Jaden Reed, I mean, thinking of it from like Dynasty, is it kind of reminds me of like Amon-Ra St. Brown his rookie season, where
yeah,
everyone said like, oh well, his production only came because Hawkinson and Swift were injured, and it could be kind of like a same argument for Jaden Reed that like, oh, Christian Watson was banged up and that kind of thing.
yeah.
You even say, oh yeah, Luke Musgrave was hurt, and then I'm trying to think if there were any other wide receiver injuries, but like anytime like when we kind of like make excuses for like, oh,
Yeah,
why a guy produced and trying to like undermine it, like it usually doesn't work out very well. So like that's
yeah.
part of the reason why I like Reed. It's just like when a receiver's productive, I'm
Hey,
gonna believe it.
we're on the clock here, by the way. I cut you off for a
Okay.
second,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I
Sure.
like we could, if we want to play into the Reed, like we have the week 17. Oh god, oh god.
Oh no.
We have the week 17 with like I don't even know what's happening. Oh my god.
Just say,
We get who we get. We get Rome Odunze. I mean, I don't even
from-
know what I just
that'll work.
clicked.
This is a receiver.
I don't even know what I clicked. I think we messed up last time in our draft as well. I clicked something wrong or something, but oh yeah, that's right. We left like Dalton Schultz in the queue, and then we accidentally
Oh,
got Dalton Schultz, but it ended up like not being the
it worked
worst thing,
out. Yeah,
being like
yeah.
behind ADP still.
And we
But
got like a week 17 sack. So yeah, actually, I mean, I don't mind Rome Odunze at all.
the one thing I was gonna say is like it almost makes more sense for Addison, even though his upside might be less, just because like again playing like the week 17 is the only thing that matters. But
Yeah.
I'm also I don't know. That's a whole conversation. Like, do you think week 17 really matters that much? Like, in that case, like we need to take Addison, because we have Jaden Reed. Like, we could still get Ty Chandler, Hawkinson late, like something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like an expert on like underdog, so I mean, take my comments with a grain of salt. But I do think that at least potentially the whole like week 17 stack has gone like a little overboard with like the emphasis on it. I mean, I think it's a nice thing to have, but like I don't think it's like
Yeah.
necessary. I mean, like, has anyone even like shown stats about like how week 17 stacks like makes you more likely to win? I mean,
So I there actually was there. I did see a site. Now I think because there's multiple ways you can look at it. Teams that optimized for week 17 actually advanced at a higher rate than teams that didn't. But
okay.
with that being said, teams that are optimizing for week 17 are just generally sharper players. Where
Yep,
like
exactly.
people that are just clicking buttons. I mean, I know there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of sharp players on Underdog. You're playing it, but think about how many people out there are just like found this or watched something and they're just clicking buttons, drafting 8 running backs. I had a guy in my
Yeah.
draft earlier draft, I think 10 running backs.
Mhm.
I mean, or whatever, right? They don't
Yeah.
know the draft receivers. There's so many drafts
Yeah.
thrown in the garbage, is my point.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's just more to say the people that are doing that are a little bit sharper than.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because yeah, there's a difference between causation and correlation. So yeah, I
Exactly.
think maybe a good example of that.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, Kyler Murray coming up. To get like Rusher as our first quarterback, it feels awesome. I mean, I think we both
Yeah.
like Kyler.
Yeah, because again, it's 4 points per passing touchdown in this format, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's the thing is, my big thing, it's why I don't like taking Stroud and those guys, is
Mhm.
that you. I'll just go ahead and take Kyler. I mean, when you go down this list of quarterbacks, and you can see, okay, we can get Trevor Lawrence at pick 120. Like, why am I taking? And I'm saying this because I just took Stroud in my last draft at like pick whatever his ADP is.
Yeah.
We can get Trevor Lawrence like 70 picks later,
Yeah.
He's got probably more rushing upside than Stroud. I mean, he's got a bunch of
Yeah.
stackable weapons. You got your Goffs, your Herberts.
Right.
It's really hard for me to justify drafting the Joe Burrows
Yeah.
and those guys when they're just that much more expensive. And you know, it's best ball. Like these guys all have spike weeks.
Right.
Um, they could hit your lineup just as many times as you know insert player X that's being drafted way earlier. That's why I just love like picking the rushers. You know that.
Yeah.
Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels is a big target.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're going to take a quarterback early, it would need to have the rushing upside, or it would just have to be like someone that's like just super proven, like a Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
or maybe it makes sense with like a stack, but yeah, just like randomly taking like a CJ Stroud early in this format just seems to make like no sense.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically just like burn your money away if you just like take Stroud and like don't have any of his pass catchers or something too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens a lot. You know, just for like the random person loading up. But we're sitting here. I mean, we basically again like we're all right with running with receivers. Like, if we think there's a running back that's better, but I don't know. Like, honestly, yeah, I don't like any of his receivers. Like, I'm not a big fan of taking a tight end. Is there a running back here we can grab? Like, honestly, I have a point for Najee Brooks. Anything here, Dan?
I mean, I kind of like Swift, but he's further down there. So, I mean,
I don't even know who we got. Okay, we got Brooks. So
we got Brooks.
well, but I will say the reason I hit Brooks was because when you're in these competitions, like he just perfectly fits that mold of
Mhm.
we're getting him at pick 90, and I mean, yeah, he's coming off the ACL, but we can like whatever plan our team for that and get a guy like Ford or even we were saying like free at the end of the draft. We can get
Yeah.
what's his face there, Foreman.
Foreman.
Like just a
Yeah.
guy that's gonna like hit your lineup, maybe score a couple touchdowns while you wait for your other guys to brew and
Yeah.
try to be true difference makers.
Or even like a Raheem Mostert. I mean, because like maybe you look at him as a guy who will be productive
Yeah,
until he gets injured, so maybe he's better early in the season. So yeah,
yeah.
guys like that.
So what? Here's my thing. I'm a big like. I probably won't have like any Swift in
Okay.
this year. I have my own like reasoning. Well, what's like? Do you like Swift at all? Would you?
Yeah, I kind of do. I mean, I don't know if it's just because like I just sort of got him in a dynasty trade by happenstance where like he was offered to me for like Christian Kirk, and it was just kind of like it was part of a bigger trade,
Yeah.
but it was in blood, sweat, and beers. So yeah, I don't know if I'm just sort of like, oh, now I'm like kind of talking myself into
Yeah.
Swift,
I don't
but
know. I think it might be, but that's just me.
but I mean, I feel like he's a pretty talented running back. I mean, like years on the Lions, he was very explosive. I always liked him. And I just like having running backs on good NFL offenses, which I think the Bears will be with Caleb Williams with that receiving core. I just think he'd be kind of sneaky, and he's still like fairly young. I think he's only like what, like 25, something like that. Um,
Yeah, 25 or so.
yeah, so I mean, he still like should be like basically in his prime. Um, and he was pretty solid for the Eagles last year. I mean, he definitely outperformed his ADP last year for where he was being drafted.
Yeah.
And I think he could do the same thing this year. I think he'd be kind of sneaky.
I'm,
Also, like he would have done even better last year if Hurts didn't steal the touchdown.
yeah,
So that could be an issue on the Bears.
he did. I think we could have a different outlook if he went in the end zone like those million times that he fell on the one. It was actually kind of crazy. It was kind of like Amon-Ra 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt really good about, like drafting a couple Amon-Ras last year in like Dynasty. I don't even think I have any anymore. I think I traded them away. But I was like, man, like he should have had way more than 6 touchdowns or whatever it was. Like every time I had a Lions game on, he fell on the one, and he certainly turned that around this year. But
yeah, that's why Jamal Williams scored like 20 rushing touchdowns that season, which was insane.
Yeah, exactly. So we're coming up on receiver here. We could start to think about Stackwell. I mean, this is now like a spot where we could take Rashid Shaheed play into this New Orleans game a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a good spike week, best ball type of wide receiver.
Yeah, like we have some guys that can give us some volume, like maybe a little bit better of a floor.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally no floor with Shaheed. He'll just randomly pop up in your lineup. and I mean, we can try to run back some Raiders, like maybe
Or do
Jacoby
we think like
Myers.
there could be like more upside in someone like Adonai Mitchell? I know he's a
Yeah,
rookie, but I mean, I don't know,
yeah.
just kind of swing for the fences there. But I don't mind Shaheed.
There's definitely more upside, but we're kind of setting ourselves up to take Derek Carr in this build. And
Okay.
if we're gonna take Derek Carr, like you want to have
Yeah.
Rashid Shaheed,
Yeah. Probably.
because if Derek Carr has a good game, all these guys have a chance of hitting your lineup. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that's like it's good where I'm like I might prefer a guy more, but when you're starting to play out those game stacks, you gotta
Yeah.
like kind of diversify your portfolio a little bit,
Yeah.
and
So yeah, it could be a good
bite the
team
bullet.
to take Shaheed on
Yeah,
and get some exposure to him.
exactly. I mean, we got elite tight ends, so we can still knock out Juwan, who his ADP is higher than I thought, but still pretty free. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
All right.
I'm not minding this team so far.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty solid. I mean, it's pretty well rounded. I mean, we've hit all the positions. And yeah, we're pretty deep at receiver, but yeah, we still have hit everything else. We got an elite tight end, got an elite running back, and then
Basically,
someone
every
with some
QB.
upside in Brooks. So, and we
Yeah,
got a mobile quarterback with the rushing upside in Kyler. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think it's looking pretty good.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a huge fan of just like picking basically any of these quarterbacks and then just taking three of them.
Yeah,
Because here we go. We're on the clock. Okay. One moment. What's the only
Adonai
team that's
Mitchell's
playing?
still there.
Do we have a reason to take him? Like, is there anyone else that makes more sense? I'll put him in queue. One guy that pops out is like Tajay Spears, just at this price, but I don't know. Like, we can take
I like
Mitchell if you
Chase
want.
Brown. I'm a pretty big Chase Brown
Do
guy.
you want to take him or Mitchell?
I'll leave it up to you. I mean, I'd probably say Mitchell, but I'd be happy either way.
We'll go ahead and we'll just take the receiver. I'll let that be the
Yeah,
tiebreaker.
yeah, yeah.
Another thing that we could have looked at is like trying to get Leggett late,
Hmm.
but we don't have any bucks. I don't think it matters too much, but
Yeah. I mean, it could just be like a bet on the Panthers offense this year.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which I
I mean,
don't mind. I mean, I think the Panthers offense will be
yeah.
pretty good this year.
It's hard for me though to like take Bryce Young. I like maybe if I had Deontay Johnson, that would be the team I want to take Bryce Young.
Right.
But it's so hard for me to take him over even Derek Carr.
Hmm.
I think Bryce Young is actually a little bit underrated on his rushing ability. Like he certainly
Okay.
has some rushing upside. But
Yeah.
like Drake May, like I don't know. I like the I don't know. I can't really talk myself too much into Bryce Young, but I should build out some game stacks with him, some Panthers Bucks
Yeah.
stacks. Do you think there's like any chance he actually turns it around and is like useful in your lineup?
Yeah. I mean, certainly from like a best ball standpoint, I mean, I'm sure he's going to have some spike weeks. I mean, although in fairness, I mean, he really didn't have any spike weeks last year. I mean, at all, right? So,
Yeah.
but I expect him to take a step forward this year. So yeah, I don't mind getting some exposure to Bryce Young.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is like with the weapons, I just don't love the price. I mean, in Dynasty, I'm not touching the Xavier like a 10-foot pole. This is
Yeah.
where I would draft him and just hope
Mhm.
he's just the biggest of outliers. But
Yeah, and I mean, he is
you know,
kind of a big play guy, right? So I
he
mean, I
is.
would
Yeah.
think you could have a few spike weeks.
Honestly, Thielen is like pretty big sleeper. They said
Mhm.
Deontay Johnson is like the perfect X is the word around town, which I thought he might be operating out of the slot a little bit more. But obviously with Thielen there, if
Yeah.
Thielen's still doing that slot role, I mean he's not going to be who he was last year
Mhm.
with that extra target competition. But he could certainly still put up some weeks and maybe some more touchdowns. I don't think he even like scored more than 1 or 2 touchdowns last year.
Oh
So
yeah, that's a good point because the offense was so bad, so he didn't have much opportunity. But if
yeah,
he could put up like a similar year yardage wise that he did last year, maybe not quite as good, but like maybe like 80% of it,
yeah,
but then like score a handful more touchdowns this season, that could be kind of sneaky.
yeah. No, exactly. I think there's still some room for old man Thielen to
Oh yeah.
to, to be like I don't know. I think this is exactly where I'd want him. I don't want him in any dynasty,
Hmm.
but I don't want to have to actually plug in my lineup. Corum fits in our stack. Like I just receiver, I don't see anything that makes sense. we
Okay.
we already have 6 receivers.
Yeah. So we can kind of
Um,
afford to go to the running back well here.
yeah, like this is the spot I love. You know, we went past Spears, but you know, as
Now,
much
what
as
about Ford? Is he too low in the ADP right now to consider him?
he, yeah, I mean, Quorum, like
Probably.
I think we'd have to take the ADP because
Yeah.
you know, but okay, I mean, we could take 4 now.
Oh, Corum just went. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this I
I
love
kind of
this
feel
range of
like
running backs.
could Ford be good early in the season with the Chubb uncertainty, and could that kind
Oh,
of fit in well with the Brooks pick that we made earlier?
oh yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Ford will be productive at least in the first few weeks, and then who knows? I mean, there's upside for more, so
Yeah.
I'm fine just going ahead and taking him.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that.
another little underrated thing I think about Ford is that they play, I believe, in Cleveland. They play in
Okay.
Cleveland in week 17. Could be a lot of groundwork,
Yeah.
and you know, so I don't mind getting the running backs from the Dolphins and Browns, but
Oh yeah, it could definitely be like a cold weather, run the football kind of game. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I'm seeing
yeah. I
what
mean,
else.
especially in Cleveland. I mean, yeah, it can get pretty brutal there in like December
Or
and
just
January.
really windy or whatever it might
Yeah, and
be.
it's like yeah, better just like run the ball like 50 times a day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So trying to fix my lighting here. So that's any better. But 5 picks away, you know, I don't know. Like our we were pretty heavily invested in wide receiver. I actually don't love like the names necessarily, but you know the stacks will really should elevate our receivers.
Hmm.
Maybe we can get Stafford or something at the right price, but I'm not like, you know, I'm not set on that at all.
Yeah.
This is just
Um,
a really good spot for running backs. I don't know. Is there anything?
I mean, I like Dotson just in general. So I don't know if he makes sense with this build.
Yeah, I mean, I like Dotson at this price, but like, I just want probably Daniels on that team or like something to do with that game. Otherwise,
Okay.
he just feels like a burn like pick as far as
Okay.
like what else we can do. Um, although like obviously we
Oh
don't
no,
have.
Marshawn Lloyd.
So yeah, I was about to say we have a bet on Green Bay's offense. I love
Oh, that's right.
Lloyd and Chandler,
Mhm.
and I mean I'd be perfectly fine putting that like the bet in for either of them.
Yeah.
We could actually get both of them technically,
Sure.
and kind of figure things later. But I mean, Polk will be up there at our next pick.
Mhm.
I have a case for Polk for. I think this Patriots offense, like this is gonna be my highest exposure. So are we cool with Lloyd? Like I just think he makes sense. He
Yeah. Does it make sense with the ADP?
Oh yeah, I mean we were taking a couple picks ahead. That's completely fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What I'll say about Lloyd is just that with I think he'll have his standalone value, but
Mhm.
I mean I don't know Josh Jacobs. I don't know. I think there's a real chance like Lloyd could actually go out there and he just like fits this build where we're shooting for upside with the running backs.
Oh yeah.
You know, if he's kind of like a zero, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean Lloyd Stone I really came around on in Dynasty kind of toward the end of rookie draft season. I think I had like written him off early because like I think one of the first things I heard about him is that he had a fumbling
Fumble,
issue in
yeah.
college. And that's just something that like really turns me off to a player. So I think like I didn't give him a chance at that point. But once I actually like watched him, it's like, oh, he does look pretty good out there. Maybe I should at least get a share of him. So that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
Um, Took him in my last rookie draft. Um, but yeah, I mean, he does look like a fun, explosive player, and yeah, I think he's a fun running back to have in best ball.
Yeah, honestly, I've been coming around on him too. I just was so focused on right, and I mean, we'll see. That'll be a good case study to see if
Yeah,
we just got a little too attracted with the landing spot and just like the recency bias on those running backs. But
yeah. I think
you know,
also Burton too. I think because like I was so high on and still am so high on Wright and Jermaine Burton that they were going in a similar range as Lloyd, and so it was just like so easy to get focused on Wright and Burton and just kind of forget about Lloyd.
yeah, no, exactly. I was in the exact same thing for me. I was just forgetting about about Lloyd completely. And a lot of the
Yeah,
times he would go before those players though, or just right beside them,
yeah,
and I would have my eyes set on Burton and whatnot. So I did
yeah.
have
But
him
I
on
mean,
Lloyd.
oh yeah, in Dynasty,
I
yeah.
got him like 3-7 or something. It's too bad. I had picked 4-2 in a grease ball draft, and that's where he went somehow. Like when we did the draft immediately, but
Mhm,
that would have been a good value. So we're coming up with the clock here, though. By the way,
mhm,
I don't know. Like, do you think almost like this crazy thought in my mind is if we have any like Vikings or Packers, you can just
mhm.
click Hawkinson and forget about tight end. But you can also build out like we could take Polk went. I don't know if that's like a great strategy on the Hawkinson because I do really like Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I
But
feel like I'd rather kind of fade tight end,
yeah,
but I mean, maybe you could talk me into it. But yeah, I mean, let's look at what other options are
yeah,
on the board
I'm
here.
not gonna talk you into it. Just that receivers looking really dry. We could
Yeah, I
plug
mean,
in Panthers
I
now.
don't like the names at the top. I mean, and so I don't know if we want to like
Toronto.
reach down there. Wait, what quarterbacks are available? Is that something we should consider at
So
all?
we do have Stafford here. That's a great. I
Oh, Stafford, yeah,
yeah,
stack with Cup. I
yeah.
mean, that seems pretty solid to
We can
me.
also make our final probably receiver like one of our favorites, Rams. I mean, probably Demarcus Robinson. I'd assume.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Running back. I mean, nothing screaming to me.
Yeah, let's go
Yeah,
Stafford. Yeah, I love that.
it's funny because this Stafford, I almost don't. I like it for the game stack. That's probably why his ADP is a little higher. We now
Mhm.
like got both quarterbacks from that game,
Yeah.
but like I need to start getting some Browns pass catchers because I
Mhm.
actually think Deshaun Watson is like severely underpriced. As much as people hate him, I mean
Yeah.
it's I don't know, it's best ball. Like you
Yeah,
can
I mean,
throw
we
it
do
to
have
him.
Ford, but I mean,
Yeah,
that wouldn't be like a huge stack with the running back. So
yeah,
I don't think it makes sense on this team, but
no,
yeah.
no, yeah. You would need some.
And we need to get Carr. So
Yeah,
Carr is going to be our last
yeah,
quarterback no matter what, right?
yeah. Carr's essentially free, so and we have his
Yeah.
best pass catcher. Actually, we have his like two best pass catchers. So another
Yeah.
thing that I like that you talked to me about Bride is that we can almost go for like just a random like Conklin or Fant or something, and then just go ahead
Yeah.
and take Juwan.
Yeah, okay. And
We don't
do
need
you want
Juwan.
three tight ends on this build, even with having Trey McBride?
I I don't know. I like three tight ends. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
just depends what the hell happens in between.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't need it with an elite tight end. Like you almost don't want to pay for the third tight end
Yeah.
when you do have such high investment in one. I guess
Mm-hmm.
it would just depend if we really liked like if we wanted to play out like Hunter Henry and
Yeah.
like, but we're not playing out. We didn't get Polk. We didn't get May, or we're not going to. So,
Yeah.
uh, okay, we gotta be quick here. So I think receiver we're good like for now. So we should focus on running back.
Would Chuba Hubbard make sense to pair with Brooks and kind of like stack running backs and like kind
It
of
it,
guarantee production early, maybe,
it does it does like we were just talking about that.
or Ray Davis?
The thing is like, does Ray Davis have more upside? Like I don't know, like playing in the final. I'm gonna throw Ray Davis head there.
Yeah, I like that.
I know we were just talking about like the lower investment, and I think that is a great choice, but we would be reaching on Chuba.
80. Yeah.
Like we could still get Chuba as our
Yeah,
sixth.
let's see if Chuba falls. Maybe we consider him later as like our last
Yeah,
running back or something like that.
yeah. And the other thing is just like I never did my Swift speech here, but
Oh yeah, go
basically
ahead.
I just don't see the story for him. I know that he was good, and like actually the Bears like he was good. He wasn't really actually impactful in fantasy because of the touchdowns,
Exactly.
but Bears have a good O line, so like that's the plus for him.
Hmm.
But it's such a crowded backfield. Khalil Herbert has actually been like really efficient
Hmm.
and awesome, and then I mean he wasn't anything really last year. I like Roshan as well.
Hmm.
The whole like argument is for Swift really is he's gonna catch more passes because he's not with Hurts anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean all those backs can really do that, and like what I don't know, it doesn't really make any sense to me. And the rookie quarterbacks actually don't even really like checking it down to running backs is kind of like the historical data behind that.
Really.
So yeah, it's like more tight ends is like I think what it ends up being, but I'm not sure if that one's even true. Um,
I mean, are you expecting like a committee there with the Chicago backfield?
I would say more so than anything. I can just almost seeing Swift being I don't know, like just not turning into dust, but like being completely useless and just like stuck. Being actually, I saw something like he might be like in like a special weapon role. I don't know. That sounds like kind of scary to me.
Oh, but I mean that just sounds
But
like a bunch of
yeah,
thing, like a narrative that people say and it never happens. So like I'm not going to be too worried about that. But
I just
yeah, I
I don't
still
know.
like Smith. I mean, like they paid him, didn't they? I mean, I expect him to be the main guy.
Yeah, I need to look at better his contract, but
Also, they had a lot of chances to watch Swift when he was on the Lions for those few years. So it's like they know the player he is. The fact that they went out and got him in free agency, like I feel pretty good about Swift.
yeah, I don't know. I just like Herbert at like 100 picks later. It's basically like what I
Yeah,
mean. If I want a Bears running back,
yeah.
I don't see what could hold Herbert back to being just as good as Swift. Like I would say that there
Yeah,
if
but I mean, you could make that argument for
you
just about any NFL team. It's just like, oh, well, I'll
you
take
could.
the two
I
running back
just
a million picks later.
I don't know. I just don't see it for Swift. I don't know. It's just maybe it's a gut feeling thing. There'd be more. If I had more preparation, I'd have a better argument for him here.
Yeah, yeah, okay, for sure.
It's
I'm sure we'll
you
circle
know
back to it. I mean, we're gonna
yeah.
do plenty more of
I
these
don't know.
underdog drafts, so we'll
Yeah.
have plenty of time to talk about it.
I just yeah I don't know. Like, it's
It's just another one of those like Calvin Ridley kind of situations for us here, where I'm
even
a
that
believer, and
honestly though like I would draft Calvin Ridley in best ball. I would just never pay the price for him in dynasty.
right,
Especially because you actually have to choose to put him in your lineup, and
yeah,
he does have a ceiling, but I don't know. Not
yeah.
my cup of tea.
All
So
right, so
okay, we gotta focus up here. Juwan is there.
okay.
I'm just gonna
I mean,
put
I
him in the
wouldn't mind that.
queue.
I mean, yeah, put him in the queue.
Um, Running back, we were talking about. Okay, so Hubbard didn't make it. I just don't see anything that makes sense for our team.
What about Michael Wilson to stack with
Oh
Kyler
yeah,
Murray?
yeah. There we go. I like that a lot. I mean, I'm willing just to take him here,
Yeah,
and
I'm
missing
good
out
with
on
that.
Juwan. I actually
Yeah,
really like you said that because I don't know. I've been hearing some good things, and actually, JJ Zacharyson, who has a prospect model, basically ended up saying he really likes Wicks at his price, but Michael Wilson, in his model and whatever, is actually like projected to be the exact same score, um,
hmm.
and technically has more opportunity,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
you could
because
argue.
yeah, I mean, unless you're like a believer in Zay Jones, which I'm not particularly, I think Michael Wilson projects to be the starting outside receiver opposite of Marvin Harrison. And I think it's going to be a good offense. And I think Michael Wilson had a pretty good rookie season. I think he'll be even better this year.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think he's another sneaky guy this year to take in just about any format.
yeah. He's just a guy like, especially in best ball. I just feel a little bit better about it too, though.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, not having to decide when those spike weeks are coming. Yeah, I think he's
exactly.
definitely
I
even
mean,
that much more appealing.
correct me if I'm wrong. Like he had some spike weeks.
Oh yeah,
Like
I think
within his injuries and stuff.
I want to say he had like a 2 touchdown game, and yeah, he definitely had a few spike weeks.
Okay, yeah. So I see it. I mean, yeah, that's a perfect.
Yeah,
Just throw him in. Get another pass catcher that's not named Marvin,
yeah,
and we're really building out this week 17. Um, I don't want to say it sucks that we got stuck with Rome because maybe he's just awesome, but
yeah,
we could have at least had Addison, who also has a high ceiling weekly, and then
yeah.
fits into that Green Bay game. But that really only matters if we we make the finals,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
looks a little
exactly.
good.
I mean, mistakes happen.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we're still kind of getting into the groove here with these underdog drafts and live streaming and everything.
yeah. So Juwan looks like we're gonna get a really good value on him here.
Okay. And can we still get like Derek Carr later? I mean, he's a guy we can wait on, right?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, you can start to play it like risky. It's just I actually really like some of these running backs that you can get free. Like I'll point out some. You could say Shipley, but we don't have like anything from that game. I mean, neither do we have from Denver. But I mean, you call me crazy. Like here's some
They're
names I like.
great. Yeah.
Like, those are the ones that really stand out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sermon a lot. I
Foreman's
mean, at least where he makes sense at ADP. Oh yeah, Foreman as well for sure. I mean, yeah, I kind of feel like, yeah, I don't hate the idea of getting Foreman on this team if we can afford to take another running back. If it
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Like we are pretty weak at like just as far as early projections, it's just Brees and Ford, and
Yeah,
then super team potential with just getting all these rookies and an injury away from being, just completely outplaying their ADP.
yeah. So for that reason, I think like Foreman could give you some of those, some of that like early season production if we're betting on like Chubb not being available early on.
Yeah, just be like we don't even need to bet on anything else in this offense. Just the fact that they're going to run the piss out of the ball,
Yeah, and I
and
mean Foreman has like those random spike
yeah,
games, so
oh
I just think he's good in best
yeah,
ball.
he really does. The thing I love about Foreman is like the year CMC got traded.
Mhm.
I think the rumors were like brewing up or something. I don't know. And I actually had Foreman stashed away on this like 14-man roster, and I needed a running back really bad. And Foreman, like I was picking him over Chuba, which is actually kind of crazy because like I do like Chuba, and he's a
Yeah.
Canadian guy too. But I don't know. Foreman seemed like the guy,
Mhm.
and I picked right, and Foreman like started smashing, and I just won't forget that one because
Yeah.
he was putting in work at RB2 for me in that, and I'll always love Foreman for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he helped lead me to a fantasy championship in that 16 team dynasty league,
Oh
NFL
wow,
Madness, the first year. So
there you go.
yeah, I always love Foreman. He's always underrated.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I'm actually shocked he's only going at 200 AP. Like he's going behind Damian Pierce. He's going behind J.K. Dobbins by quite a bit.
Oh
And
wow.
I don't know, Foreman just finds a way. Like he's actually kind of awesome out there. he's,
Yeah, kind of yeah,
you know,
low
like
key. You know, he's kind of low key, pretty good.
yeah. I don't know. I just
And he had a monster spike
did
week last year. Did he have like 130
did.
yards, like three touchdowns, like out of nowhere? You
Yeah,
know?
what's this? What's crazy? I had a lineup where everything what was going wrong, everyone was hurt, and I forgot to set my lineup one week,
Yeah.
and it was Foreman because like, I think Dave Montgomery was out or something, and then like Foreman was just next man up, like because I think whatever was going on in their backfield,
Yeah.
you had to start Foreman, and or, like at least in my league format, I did. I forgot to just like get around to just touching the lineup, and
Mhm.
by the time I was like looking at the score, I'm like, wait, where's Foreman? Where's Foreman? He's like he just keeps pounding the end zone. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is just tragic. But here's where we have a tough decision though.
Mhm.
I just don't know if anyone would want Carr. We have his only pass catchers, so I mean just you never know who you're drafting with. They might just
Yeah.
randomly pick Carr. But if we
Wait,
really want to
did we get
optimize,
Juwan?
we did
Okay,
get
you
Juwan.
okay.
So if we want to optimize, we take Foreman and shoot for the sky here and hope Carr comes back around, which I think can definitely happen. It's only like
Okay.
5 picks, I think. So
Okay. Yeah, let's roll the dice.
yeah,
I mean, it's go big or go home with these
exactly.
underdog drafts, right? So.
Hey, if not, we can just take Taysom. No, that's so sad. He's not a tight
Oh my
end.
God! Yeah, I forgot about
Dude,
my boy Taysom Hill. Yeah.
it was funny because my first draft of the season, I was looking for him in the tight end spot. And like, how is he so low in ADP? And I was searching him up, and then quarterback. Seriously, like he didn't. I don't know. I can't stand that. I would be all over Taysom Hill, even in half PPR here.
Oh wait, he's under quarterback and underdog.
Yeah,
Oh geez.
unfortunately. I actually had a
Oh, that's
lot of
fine.
Taysom last year, but he
Yeah.
just didn't get hot at the right time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, can you imagine getting him on this team? That would be
Oh yeah, if he was a tight end, like that would be
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that could be like a crazy strategy of like having Jawan and Taysom. Like I don't know. Maybe they throw a touchdown pass to each other or something.
Right, right.
Who knows? Maybe it's Jawan throwing it to
Or he maybe throws it to Olave or Rashid
yeah,
Shaheed. Like, yeah, I don't know.
exactly.
You can kind of talk me into this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be yeah. I mean, maybe not with Jawan, but like he could
Mhm.
throw it to Jawan too. There's probably a better bet for us out there, but
Yeah,
oh my god, Taysom Hill would be so much fun to be drafting
yeah.
again. I feel like you're either like all in on Taysom or you just like don't want to touch him at all.
how sweet would it be if he had like the dual eligibility on Underdog, and then
God.
he could go and do like quarterback or
Yeah.
tight end depending on like your other performances
Yeah.
on your team. That would be
No,
really sweet in best
it
ball.
it would, but like you would literally never start him at quarterback because you have like literally three quarterbacks, and if you put a game a good enough to outplay three quarterbacks, you would definitely like he's definitely gonna slot in that tight end as well.
But I mean, what if you went with like basically like a two quarterback build plus Taysom? Then he could kind of be like that QB3 for you.
He could, but like if he literally ever put up those points, he would just be like in your optimized lineup. He would just always be in a flex
Tight
spot,
end,
like tight
yeah,
end. You know what I mean? Like tight ends are
probably right.
it's
But what
so
if there was
slow.
But there could be a scenario where like your two quarterbacks are like have the same bye week, and then like
Yeah,
Taysom bails you out
could.
that week. So I don't know. I mean, I guess that's like a small victory, but it would be interesting just
He
to have
could.
the
He's not winning
possibility.
you any money though. Like in that case, is all we're in his tight end spot though. Like he's definitely winning you some money if he is throwing.
But I mean, you want to talk about a guy that can get spike weeks. I mean, Taysom will definitely get some like crazy
Oh yeah,
weeks out of nowhere.
yeah. I mean, you just can never predict it. You just gotta
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
basically useless in lineup.
he'd be perfect for best ball if he was tight end
Yeah.
eligible.
So boom, we go ahead and get
Derek
Derek Carr.
Carr.
The only thing
Indeed.
I don't know if we put enough investment in receiver, but you could almost like excuse that. Like we have enough receivers, like as far as just like roster number. Like we have enough year two and just like breakout potential guys plus
Yeah,
a absolute wild card in Shaheed.
yeah.
I'm actually fine with this receiver room.
Okay.
What do you think here?
Yeah. So what we have seven receivers.
Yeah, like we're all done the draft. That was our last pick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, I think with those first three receivers, Olave, Cup, and Reed, I think we should be able to count on a lot of production from those three.
yeah,
Then you have the upside of Odunze and Mitchell, like a couple of exciting rookies. And then you have like a sneaky second year guy and Michael Wilson, and then you have like a spike week, random spike week kind of guy in Rashid Shaheed. So yeah, I think it's a nice collection that we have there. I think it'll be fine.
yeah. I mean, we punted quarterback other than Kyler, which just you're getting like an elite QB that's stackable. We really went heavy in this game. We didn't really care too much about the other week 17 games, which is fine because we're just yapping here and really focused on that one game. I also just think it is a little overdue to be like, you got like a random running back on one team and be like, dude, I need Jalen McMillan. Like we have Jonathan Brooks. We need to get Jalen McMillan. Like obviously,
Right.
there is some evidence to prove that an actual combo like that can work out and can be productive. But I don't know. It just didn't really make sense here as far as our build.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it can just get kind of silly. You know what I mean? Because it's like, really, like Jalen McMillan's going to be like the difference, and I mean, it's just like,
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, I love him in Dynasty, but like I'm not
Yeah.
expecting a ton out of him his rookie season, so it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, it can get you can go too far with the week 17 stack if
Yeah.
you're like
I
worried
definitely
about Jalen McMillan.
I definitely think you can, and like there are lineups that you get just like naturally that just like week 17 stacks just fall into place, and you don't need to force or like sacrifice really anything in your lineup and that's like the ones that I'm focusing on it because it just naturally happens rather than we didn't get any Raiders on this one, but we at least got our bet on New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, we got a ton of stacks. I mean, I like that we have like all the quarterbacks stacked, and I mean, some with some of them like double stacks, triple stacks. So
Yeah,
and that's pretty cool.
You never know. I never memorized week 16, but like we might have some week 16 stacks. You never know.
Sure,
So,
yeah, just by happenstance.
Yeah, by happenstance. So that could always if we win anything, we'll pretend we did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Video, but
Yeah. Other than that blunder, I mean, is there anything else you think we could have done better in this draft, or you're pretty happy with it?
Honestly, I was a little just disappointed with how fast the actual receivers were going off because they're already so pushed up, and then because we didn't take a receiver in the first round, we were basically forced to take Jane Reed. And yes, he's not the worst bet in the world, and this is the format that I probably want him in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's so much around him that I would rather pick the receivers around him. I would rather take Wicks way later,
Mhm.
and I'd be fine if he scores less. I think he can, make the lineup. I think he'd be more valuable in your lineup at like the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
And then you have like Christian Watson going later, and like who's to say Christian Watson is not going to be better than Jaden Reed in the
Mhm.
sense that when he's actually out in the field, he was better than Jaden Reed. Now again, we can go back and forth about the rookie versus like sophomore, but just when you pay the highest price for like such an ambiguous receiver room,
Yeah.
that's what is the whole point here. I don't
Yeah.
like paying that
I
price.
could see that. I could see that argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe Jaden Reed actually makes less sense in best ball. I think you could make an argument.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny because like maybe in Dynasty best ball because he's like, valuable, maybe it makes sense. I don't know. I think he's actually the one that doesn't make sense in best ball. He's more of like a lineup guy.
Yeah.
Um, but
Because I think he's like the guy you're most confident like has a role like in the Packers starting
yeah,
offense.
he's like the
Um,
one guy that you can actually like start in a lineup league, but it doesn't mean that he's gonna be like great. And then I don't know. It's pretty pricey, but
yeah, but I mean, he really did have a nice rookie season. I mean, to think that he could like only get better, I think is exciting. So I do think people are kind of sleeping on him, but I could see the argument that maybe in best ball,
yeah,
because the Packers have so many good receivers, you're better just like maybe more so fading him a bit and just like making bets on some of those other guys, like getting like Wicks later, Christian Watson,
yeah,
maybe even my guy Bo Melton, with like
yeah. I
like I wouldn't mind getting some exposure to him.
Yeah, get them with like your last pick, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then honestly, when the thing about those other receivers, and
Mhm.
it can be said about Jaden Reed as well because Christian Watson went out, but if say Christian Watson or any of those other receivers get hurt and you happen to not pick that guy, like you pick Wicks or Dobbs, whatever, they instantly get a boost too, and we just I don't know Reed. We're paying the highest price for him, but these other guys can get projected into bigger roles
Mhm.
like 70 picks later, and maybe be like, I mean, Wicks was just insane for
Mhm.
how little opportunity like technically he got, and just like his
Right.
quote out numbers were just sick.
Right.
And you can't really start him in lineup leagues, so I think it's he's just an awesome target in
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
best ball. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty happy with that because this is how I like to build them out. We get
Mhm.
our stud, and then just a bunch of upside as well with a couple, you know,
Yeah, I like that we got like three pretty exciting rookie running backs and Brooks, Lloyd, and Ray Davis, and then we got that pair of Browns running backs to give us some of that early season production. I think both those guys are really fun
yeah,
and really could be really sneaky.
yeah,
And then of course, all of them led by Brees Hall, who just should be an absolute stud this year. So yeah, I think that's a pretty nice running back room.
yeah, yeah. And then going down, we got these guys stacked. I mean, that's one thing I like about. That's basically my goal in any tight end room, especially if I'm not drafting. I'm fine if we get Trey McBride not stacked or whatever. It would probably be Andrews and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
when I'm taking Juwan Johnson, like realistically, you don't need their quarterback. But if your quarterback, your tight end, whatever, is making your lineup and your quarterback, your odds of actually just like advancing is significantly higher because the bar is just so low at tight end. If Matt Stat or whatever, Derek Carr can take Juwan Johnson with him into the
Mhm.
lineup, it's super helpful to your team. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with that lineup. But I just don't like that 8 spot. I really hate that 8 spot, and I've picked it
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
3 times, and we've only done like 5 drafts since like the big board or whatever, or
Right.
I don't know. So yeah, that spot sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of a tough spot. I mean, it didn't feel like whenever we were on the clock, there weren't a lot of times where there was just like some screaming value, and there's like, oh, this is the obvious pick. So I think that's maybe an indication that like maybe like the best value wasn't falling to us. But
Yeah,
you got to deal with the cards that you're dealt, and yeah, I think we made pretty good choices.
yeah, yeah. So it's a good draft. If you guys think there's anything better you would have done or whatever, like a player on the board you would have taken, we'd love to hear it because we're just getting started here on the best ball drafts, and I might actually just like spam some schnauzers slow drafts
Mhm.
and start clicking away at them. But you know, the fast drafts are obviously way more fun and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely fun doing these drafts as like the rookie draft season in Dynasty kind of comes to an end for most of us. This is kind of a fun thing to take its place. So yeah, it's definitely fun that we have some drafts to do, and you can pretty much like do these until the season. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. We were so focused on like our rookie drafts, and now we can like transfer over. That's basically what I did last year. I was so focused on all my dynasty stuff,
Yeah.
and now that can kind of take a bit of a backseat and just like knock out some underdog drafts. And
Yeah, and as we get closer to the season, like we start thinking more and more about like, okay, what's going to happen this year, and
yeah,
not just like the next few years, like from the dynasty perspective.
yeah,
And this just kind of helps you like gear into that.
exactly. I mean, this has helped me get around on Lloyd and then some other guys, even actually Chandler, who I was already like way ahead on, and then I sold him off in a bunch of leagues, and now I'm
Yeah,
trying to get him back for cheaper. Like the same guys I sold him for a second for. I'm like, hey man, you want to give
yeah,
me him for this like projected late third? You know,
yeah.
I know you rented him
That's
for
always kind of
1
a
week.
funny It's always like a funny position to be in dynasty when you have to like go knocking on the door of the manager that you just like sent the
Yeah,
player to, and you're like, hey, like any chance I could get that guy back? It
yeah,
always kind of feels like not the most like powerful position to be negotiating from, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It,
it's worth a try.
yeah, I've gotten quite a few situations there. Like I'll show, I did a big trade in that one league I was showing you, where we got Brock Purdy and you know Ayuk. The best part about this is I owned both of these guys
Mhm.
at some point. You know, Purdy at least I owned him last offseason, and then Ayuk like I actually literally owned him uh, in February 28th. I owned Ayuk. I then traded him off to start filling out my lineup because I was so extremely overloaded at receiver. Like I had like
Mhm.
seven, and it made no sense to be keeping all that value. I had zero running backs,
Yeah,
so I popped this trade off.
guess you got Jonathan Taylor and Gus
JT,
Edwards.
yeah, JT turned into Brees Hall, and it's like the ever going trade, and then it comes full circle, and we get both Ayuk and Purdy back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't even know how we got started on this, but
We were talking about Ty Chandler. I don't know if you had a Ty
oh,
Chandler trade, but I did recently trade for him in the D-Gens League, so you could pull that trade up if you want to look at that for fun.
this is the yeah, the DGens. Yeah, this is the only league I might have him in one other league, but I've just sold him
Okay.
off in like every league imaginable. But let's pull
Well,
up.
how recently? Like over the past
Oh,
what?
no, none. Like all in season when
Oh, in season, yeah,
yeah,
right. Okay.
especially like the leagues that had the playoff trading. I sold them for a second in those, and
Yeah. Oh wow, you actually were able to get a second for him?
oh yeah, I think I got it at least twice, but then I got him as like a second value in other
Mhm.
trades as well, like basically as like a placeholder for a second.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I remember I got like one offer for Chandler in season. It was in Blood, Sweat, and Beers, and trying to remember which manager it was, but it was a crappy offer. I think it was like a couple fourths or something like that. It's like no, and and the guy was like a contender, so it's like I'm not just gonna like hand you Chandler.
yeah, fair enough. By the way,
Yeah.
this is another trade that we did, and we never really ever talked about this. So for anyone
Yep.
tuning in, this is the league we're in the same one. I don't know. I was pretty happy with this. Like, I threw away 2 fourths. I don't really care about those in this league.
Yeah.
And I know Chase Brown could just be Jalen Warren 2.0, but like Jalen Warren is just Jalen Warren 1.0. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
like I think he can actually like probably hit my lineup, or just like be resold, but probably more so
Yeah.
valuable to my lineup. In some
Yeah. I
way.
mean, I like both of those running backs. So, yeah, I think Jalen Warren is certainly more proven and established. So, if you're a contender, I can see wanting just like the Jalen Warren side, like don't mess around, just give me like the sure thing. But I think it was perfect because, like, I mean, you have a loaded team, a loaded roster in this league. So I think like for you, it makes sense to just have like the proven thing and Jalen Warren. Whereas like my roster, I've just been like down tiering like a madman and accumulating future picks.
Yeah.
And so like it just made sense to just continue leaning into that. And it's just like, you know what? I didn't have any Chase Brown shares, and I really wanted one because I really like them.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, that's close enough where I'll just take the 2 free 4s and I'll just keep building my war chest of future picks.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it from like that point of view, especially if you're just like not as focused on like up tier and anything or whatever, and you're just
Yeah.
taking the free picks. But yeah, for me, like, I mean, I already like have a bunch of picks still, and like, the fourths are ammo, more so for just like trading up in drafts is how I
Yeah.
like their most valuable
Right.
point.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like a team like this in a league like this didn't like matter to me. I just
Yeah.
we could both be happy with that. Where did you trade?
Oh, I think, just go back up. You were right
Oh,
there.
someone like. Oh wait.
I'll go up. You're going the wrong direction, I think. Yeah. There it is. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, this is a trade?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just really confusing on Sleeper. Hold on. Okay, that's right. Yeah. So actually, I don't know if I ever. I don't know. I don't think I was the biggest fan of this trade, but I understand the league circumstances. But
Yeah. Yeah, I can barely even read that. Maybe go to the other view again.
the other one's super confusing as all. But I guess let's just like put only one side of it on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you sent away, Odunze, Kirk, Estime, 4
Yeah.
Brooks, Williams, Pacheco, Chandler, and a 3 Fab.
Yeah.
Can't forget about that.
Yeah, can't forget about the Fab. Yeah, I got.
What are you thinking
Fab.
basically with this trade and like for your roster? Just I don't know. Let me hear what you were thinking here.
Yeah, I mean, basically for this league, I think what's interesting is that you only need to start 2 wide receivers every week, whereas like with most leagues, you need to start 3.
Yeah.
So you only need to start 2, and as a result, instead of just having 2 flex spots, there are 3 flex spots plus the super flex spot. So basically, every week, if you want, you can start up to 6 running backs. But I mean, most weeks you're probably going to be starting 2 quarterbacks. So even then, though, you can start up to 5 running backs, which is kind of unique in a start 10 league because like normally you can only start like 4 or 5, depending on if you have one in the super flex or not,
Yeah.
which usually is not ideal to have one there. So yeah, the fact that I can like start like every week like 2 quarterbacks plus like 5 running backs, I think that's kind of interesting because actually this was a topic that I think would make maybe a good episode on the channel. It's something I would have to do some research into. But one interesting thing about fantasy that I think kind of gets overlooked is that it really is like a weekly game.
Yeah.
But whenever like we look at like stats like in the off season, what are we looking at? We're always looking at like the yearly stats. Like, okay, what do they do on the season? Or, sometimes we might break that down and do like, okay, well, how many points per game did they score? And we will break it down into points per game because like that's sort of us recognizing that it's a weekly game. So we try to translate it into that. But even that really doesn't do it justice because spike weeks matter a lot. Like, I mean, I know we just did like the best ball draft, but like even in just like whether it's just like a dynasty league or like a regular like redraft league, spike weeks matter because we just watched the video from what was it, Pure Potential, that was talking about how most fantasy matchups are blowouts, and he had some interesting stats about that. So like I think like consistency might be overrated a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the reason we value consistency is because we associate it with production. Usually like the fantasy play, NFL players that produce the most, they're going to tend to be more consistent. Yeah. But it's not the worst thing in the world if, given that they are productive, if that production is like, if it's more in the form of like several spike weeks and then like some down weeks, because I mean, that's what's going to win you your week is like having like those monster performances like out of nowhere. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a topic that would require some more research, but I think the interesting thing that I'm getting at here is that with running backs, I guess like what my theory is, and I'll have to see if it's true or not, is that I think running backs like can have a lot of those spike weeks on like, on any given week. I think it'd be interesting to look up like the best like flex performances for the week.
Yeah.
Basically, like
Strong
regardless of
running backs.
position.
Yeah. And like
So
they're
I think
really
that
easy to project in your lineup, like especially too, like for whatever circumstances, like a really good
right,
run defense, so they're gonna be like winning. Whereas like
yeah,
a receiver, yeah,
it's
I
more
mean
random.
yeah, it's like, well, did they fall on the one, whatever. I mean, you could say that with running backs too, but like not that. I mean,
Yeah,
normally that's a good thing that you fall on the one and then you can just punch it in. So unless you play
right.
with Hurts, so yeah,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, running back spike weeks are more predictable, whereas like with receivers, it's more random. Now, if it's a stud receiver, you're probably going to have him in the starting lineup every week, anyways.
yeah,
But if it's like one of those like fringe guys, if it's like a
yeah.
Dontavian Wicks or a Michael Wilson or
You
like those,
never know. Yeah, like you never
yeah,
know when to start those
you're gonna miss out
guys.
on those weeks. And
Yeah,
then what good are those spike weeks? They're
yeah,
literally worthless
exactly.
if they weren't in your starting lineup.
But
Whereas with running backs, those spike weeks, like most of the time, they're going to be in your lineup because, like, like, oh, like, Clyde
Jones is out.
Edwards-Helaire is going to start this week because
Yeah,
Pacheco's injured, and then you capture that spike week.
yeah.
So I think as dynasty players or even redraft players, I think we underestimate like the weekly spike weeks and the predictability of those spike weeks that come from running backs. And I think we kind of like underestimate that because we just look at like year end totals and we think, oh yeah, it's all about wide receivers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but then the kind of like the counterpoint is like, oh, but then you don't want to be rostering a bunch of running backs. But that's why I like guys like Ty Chandler because you're getting them
Mm-hmm.
basically for free, and then you know when you can throw them in the lineup. Where like again, Dontavian Wicks is interesting because I do own him in a couple leagues, but basically got him for free in
Mm-hmm.
those leagues, and it's just like. Really, I don't know if he's ever going to be in my lineup, and if he is,
Right.
it's probably the
Yeah.
week he scores, 5 points. Whereas, like, I know when to throw Ty Chandler, and I know when to throw
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard in, or like Zamir White or whatever Lloyd. So,
Yeah. But to answer your question about like what was my thinking on this trade, like why did I make this deal that maybe on the surface seems a little curious. I mean, one is the fact that like I'm definitely playing this league as I think you are too, as a little more like a almost more like a redraft league where I'm just kind of like focused on win now. That seems, that's if anyone's if anyone from the D-gens is watching this right now, they're probably really confused because like, wait a minute, you've done all these down tiers and you're accumulating all these future picks, but like I'm hoping to contend this year. I mean, I'm hoping to turn those picks back into players at some point
yeah,
or into up tiers or whatever. But in any case, like the main thing I wanted to do with this trade is I wanted to acquire more running backs because
yeah,
like based on how I'm playing this league, like I want to be really strong at running back, and the fact that I can start 5 or 6 every week, I think I could potentially capture a lot of spike weeks at running back, a lot of predictable spike weeks. So I wanted to get better there. So the fact that I get Pacheco, Jonathan Brooks, and Ty Chandler, who I'm really high on, it's like those are like 3 running backs I'm just thrilled to have on this team. So like the fact that I got all 3 of those guys in one trade, I'm just ecstatic about.
yeah,
And then basically the big question is why did I trade for Jameson Williams? Well, I wanted to do the trade minus Jameson Williams and Christian Kirk.
oh, okay,
But I couldn't get that done. In order to get the deal done and get those 3 running backs I wanted, I had to do a Jameson Williams swap where I get Jameson Williams and I send away Christian Kirk. So obviously I feel like I'm losing that part of it just because like I'm not super high on Jameson Williams. But there is a world in which, he finally breaks out. It's not very likely, obviously. But the other thing is I do have Jared Goff on this team. So I get the stack there. So I'm like, you know what? I could make that swap if I'm getting those running backs and I'm accomplishing
yeah,
everything else that I want to in the trade.
yeah. It's like you're forced into making the swap.
Yeah. I was
It's,
okay with it.
yeah,
I was okay
yeah.
with
If
it.
you're forced, but you're okay with it, and then you got Goff.
And I get a stack. It's like I could talk myself into it at that
Yeah,
point.
and then but then there's the issue. Even if JMO is good, like sort of, then it's
Mhm.
like, oh shoot, I start him the week he has literally 0 targets or whatever,
Yeah.
one catch,
Yeah.
and then you sit him and then he just drops 30. But yeah, that's like always
Yeah,
a
you can
pain.
definitely do that. And I mean, who knows? He might not last on my roster very long. I'm actually negotiating with someone right now about possibly trading him away. So we'll see if that happens or not. But I'd be okay having him. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I yeah, with that, like in a normal league, like I would just be like gobbling up the value of Rome, but I mean Brooks can just probably will outscore Rome honestly, just
yeah,
overall. I mean,
yeah,
who knows? Like maybe Rome will have a nuts stretch, but they could be at least comparable. In fact, in Underdog, like there is a gap between them, but it's mostly just because like how drafts go. Receivers are just pushed up, running
Yeah.
backs are pushed down. So I think they're more like projected actually at the same kind of production.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, the way I was looking at it is like I was getting like 2 running backs for Odunze. I was getting not only Brooks but also Pacheco, who I'm really high on, not only in redraft but like this is exactly the kind of dynasty league where I want a Pacheco
yeah,
because it's like I want to win now, and I can start 5 or 6 running backs every week if I want. So it's like
yeah.
this was the perfect league to get a share of Pacheco in, which I didn't have. So yeah, I was thrilled to get him in this league.
Yeah, yeah, it's like with me with Derrick Henry. I mean, I do have him in another league, but it's like, okay, if I'm gonna own Derrick Henry in a league, it's gonna be this one here. Like, let
Yeah,
me see all the
exactly.
cringe trades of
Perfect.
people over and fall in
Oh
love with
yeah.
him a bunch. So, yeah,
Yeah, he's a fun guy to have in this league.
yeah. So exactly. I mean, I got a bunch of veterans here, and again, it's just like the perfect league for me to build a team like that.
Mhm.
I just, I got like obviously some youth, and then McConkeys and Pearsall's, a bunch of
Oh yeah, I mean
picks.
you have an awesome bench in this league. I mean, you came out of the startup just absolutely loaded, and then
Yeah,
I think you've made like maybe a few trades since then to even improve it further. But yeah, I love your roster.
yeah. Honestly, we're kind of getting way off from whatever we even started here, but in this was an interesting league or draft because I felt like all the startups I did this year were relatively, I'm not gonna say like sharp compared to this one, but like I thought they were sharp in my strategy that everyone just completely faded running backs.
Mhm.
I mean Connor in the 13th, 14th round.
Yeah.
Again, all those guys. I mean, look where I drafted Connor here, for example. Pick round 10. I drafted him in
Yeah.
round 13, 14 in every other league, and I was forced to take him in round 10 here because
Yeah.
running backs flew off this board like I have never seen it before in my life.
Yeah.
And it created a lot of values when I was trading down
Mhm.
to get a lot of stud receivers and, Mark Andrews, blah, blah, blah. And then I was still like able to tackle the running backs by just getting a ton of them and making a couple trades. So it actually ended up
Mhm.
working really well for me because I just don't like investing highly in running backs in the first place.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of like how I think I got the edge as far as like building my team. But
Mhm.
just doing my strategy, but then acknowledging at a certain point, hey, like I do need a running back, or a few of them that can fit my lineup, and I'm really happy with the names I got. So
Oh yeah, I mean, you came away with like a nice running back room.
yeah,
So yeah, you just played things perfectly with all your trading and everything like that. Yeah, I love this deep roster that you came away with.
yeah. I mean, and with for if anyone's watching and doing a whatever dynasty startups, I mean that's why I just don't care who I really get at running back ever. What's the difference between all these names? It's just so slim. I always like just identify the tiers and then just keep pushing it back as far as possible until you gotta draft your first one, because your RB1 could still be like Derrick Henry in round 10, or
Mhm.
whatever, whoever you want, but you know Kamara in double digits, guys that can actually be an RB1 in the NFL season, and and you need to look cross positionally at like, okay, do I want Jamison Williams or do I want Alvin Kamara or Derrick Henry? Like obviously you want the guy that's going to score points, and they're probably going to be worth like nothing at the same point of time. Like unless Jamison Williams is just the biggest outlier, but that's just an example. And it's funny because you actually just traded for him, but we just
Yeah,
discussed that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's why it comes to mind. But yeah, so I don't know. I think we are good to wrap it here. We did our best
yeah, yeah.
here.
I
You know,
checked the I checked the league chat. Like we don't have any comments, but like definitely if you're watching these, like definitely participate in the league chat. Like ask us any questions. I mean, we're happy to answer them. We'll try to do a good job of like looking out for that and like seeing if we have any questions. But yeah, we'd love to interact with any of you guys that are out there like watching these. We hope you're enjoying the underdog drafts. Yeah, I mean, might seem weird like having that on a dynasty channel. But I mean, we've talked about the value that has for dynasty teams. So I do think it's relevant, and I know you feel the same way, Blake. So yeah, let us know if you're enjoying these, if you want to see more of them, or
yeah,
just what else you're interested in seeing on the channel. But yeah, we are doing the live streams every Wednesday night. They're typically going to be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, 8:30 p.m. Central time. But we did go a little early today just due to some scheduling conflicts. But it'll usually be more like 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, or actually by the time we start the live stream, it'll probably be closer to like 9:45 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, we plan on doing that weekly. So we hope you're enjoying these. Definitely like the live stream, subscribe if you haven't, and yeah, anything else you want to say, Blake?
No. I mean, there's gonna be, whether you like it or not, there's gonna be more underdog drafts coming. So
Yeah,
yeah. And then I got a few videos coming up. Like actually like a couple solos I got to work on, and then a couple just like us yapping and
Yeah.
talking some dynasty. So
Oh yeah, we definitely have a backlog of episodes that we've recorded that we're trying to get out there. So we'll definitely, hopefully, have some more like recorded videos coming on the channel soon. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next live stream. See you next Wednesday.